Christmas dinner was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted affair, full of laughter and food. Instead, it ended up being the moment I finally saw my family for what they really were. It started innocently enough. Plates piled high with turkey and mashed potatoes, glasses of wine clinking in the air, and the sound of Christmas carols half-heartedly drifting through the speakers. I was just trying to get through the meal, like everyone else. But then came the moment that set everything into motion. As I finished my plate, I pulled my phone out from under the table because, honestly, when can you ever trust a Christmas dinner with no distractions? My card had been charged for all the gifts, every single one of them. My heart sank as I stared at the notification, trying to make sense of the $13.64 to charge. At first, I thought it was some kind of glitch, but as I scanned the breakdown, I saw the familiar department stores, toy chains, and online gift shops. It was all there. Every present for the kids, for the cousins, for everyone. Who did this? I asked, my voice cutting through the holiday cheer. Dad looked up from his wine glass like it was the most casual thing in the world. We voted, he said, his face straight, like we were talking about the weather. You don't have kids, so you should pay for the ones who do. I blinked, not quite processing what I was hearing. What? His explanation was as flat as the turkey on my plate. You don't have kids, the rest of us do. So we thought it was only fair you cover the gifts for the little ones this year. I stared at him in disbelief, then glanced at Mom, who immediately looked down at her plate like it was the most interesting thing she'd ever seen. My sister was too busy sipping wine, while her twins tore into the Lego sets I'd apparently just funded. My cousin Jeff gave me this sheepish shrug, like he knew it was wrong, but wasn't about to back me up. You used my card without asking, I said, my voice rising a little. You just decided I'd pay for everything because I'm single, Mom mumbled. You always say you don't mind helping. Helping, the first repeated, almost laughing. Helping is offering. This was backroom plotting. Dad didn't seem fazed. Don't get so bent out of shape, he said, waving it off. It's just money. You've got plenty. My heart started pounding in my chest so hard I could barely hear him anymore. I scanned the table 12 people. Half of them hadn't spoken to me all year, unless it was to ask for a favor or a loan. And now they all thought it was perfectly fine to make me fund their holiday. You're unbelievable, I said, standing up. Sit down. My cousin snapped. Don't ruin the mood. The kids are having a good time. Oh, don't worry, I said, reaching into my pocket for my phone. I'm not going to ruin the mood. I'm going to end the show. Dad chuckled, thinking I was bluffing. What's that supposed to mean? I met his eyes with an ice-cold stare. It means you're going to love what comes next. He laughed again, like I was too spineless to actually do anything. He didn't laugh the next day, because the next day, my phone exploded with 53 missed calls. Cousins were screaming. Mom was begging. Dad was practically pleading, begging me to stop. But by then, I'd already hit send on something I knew would change everything. You don't wake up one day and realize your family sees you as a wallet. No, it happens slowly, quietly, like a leak under the floorboards. You only notice the rot when it all caves in. It started years ago, back after college. I landed a steady job in tech, not a dream job, but enough to live on. Health insurance. A paycheck that didn't bounce. My sister had a kid at 23 and moved back home. My cousin Jason dropped out of grad school and started trying to figure it out. For 7 years straight, my parents kept saying, it's just a rough patch for everyone. And me, I was the one who had it together. That's what they always said. You're doing well. You don't need much. Mom would say with that soft, patronizing smile, you're lucky. You should share that luck. My aunt once said, you should help out more, as she took a rent check from me for her son. At first, it was small things, school supplies, gas money for someone's job interview, chipping in for group birthday gifts that I never agreed to. But then, it became a constant thing. When my brother Dan lost his job, I paid his rent for 6 months. When my cousin Sarah wanted to start her business, I paid for her Shopify fees and her first inventory batch. She sold 2 items and never mentioned it again. And when Uncle Greg had a health scare and no insurance, guess who footed the bill? Yep, me. I didn't complain at first. I kept telling myself, this is what families do. But here's the thing. Families don't hand you the knife and thank you for the bleeding. They bled me dry, and I let them. The worst part, they acted like they were doing me a favor. You get to feel good about helping. Your name's on the group card. That's special. No one ever said thank you. Not once. It wasn't just about money either. It was time, energy, emotional bandwidth. I was the default babysitter, the emergency contact, the someone needs to help guy. I remember one Christmas Eve, when I had the flu. I texted my mom to let her know I couldn't make it. She replied, "Okay, but can you still send the gifts? The kids are counting on you." I sat on my bathroom floor, wrapped in a blanket, dizzy from fever, and thought, why do they only remember I exist when there's a bill attached to me? But the moment it really hit me, the moment everything changed, came 3 months before that Christmas dinner. I took my niece to a bookstore and let her pick out whatever she wanted. She spent $50 in art supplies, hardcovers, and a giant stuffed sloth she named Slumpy. She was thrilled. I was happy too until I dropped her off at home. "Where's Slumpy from?" my sister asked, frowning. I smiled. I let her pick it out. My sister frowned again. "You're spoiling her. You think you're the fun uncle just because you have money." I blinked. "What?" She scoffed. "Maybe spend less on toys and more on a personality." It hit me so hard. I almost laughed. I had just spent my weekend with her kid time. Time I could have spent resting, dating, living. And instead of a thank you, I got mocked for being helpful. That was when the mask slipped. Not hers, mine. I saw them for what they were, takers dressed like loved ones. They were experts in guilt. They never respected me. They barely liked me. I wasn't family. I was a funding source. And then came Christmas plans. The holiday season arrived with a flurry of family group chats, emails, and whispered plans. It was mid-November when the first message popped up, "Christmas at your place again this year." Of course, I was expected to host again. I was always the one to step up. And as usual, they expected me to play Santa with my credit card, to fund the chaos, to cover the presents, to make it all happen. I was tired. I was exhausted from pretending everything was fine, from telling myself that this was just what families do. But this time was different. I was ready to say no, for real, no more. But then, my dad texted me directly. In that way he always did when he wanted something. "You're really good at this stuff. Why don't you just handle all the gifts again? We'll settle up later." I had to bite back a laugh. Settle up later. Really? The last time they settled up with me was, well, never. I didn't reply to him right away. Instead, I sat there, my thumb hovering over my phone. It was all coming to a head, but what could I say? I didn't even have the energy to explain myself. Finally, I typed something short and cold. "Only if we agree in advance who's paying." I waited for a response. Crickets. He left me on read, and 3 weeks passed with no reply. 3 whole weeks of complete radio silence. And I thought, just maybe, they'd gotten the message. I was done being their financial backstop, done being their emergency wallet. But I was wrong, because they didn't respect my boundaries. Instead, they just used my backup card, the one I had given to Mom years ago for emergencies. Apparently, she'd shared the number with everyone, and when the statement came in, it was like a punch to the gut. Purchases from 5 different stores, none of them in her area, all for toys, electronics, and presents. When I saw the total, I couldn't breathe. It was just over $13.60. So I had to blink a few times before I could even process it. They had used my card without asking me. They'd gone behind my back. spent all that money, and not one of them thought it was wrong. So, when we sat down for Christmas dinner, I said it. I just said it, out loud. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. You used my card, I said, my voice trembling with anger. Without asking, without my permission. You decided I'd pay for everything just because I'm single. The silence was thick. My cousin Jeff shifted uncomfortably, looking at the floor, clearly embarrassed, but not about to do anything about it. Mom quickly said, "You always say you don't mind helping." I nearly exploded. Helping. Helping is offering. This wasn't helping. This was you using me. Dad barely flinched. "Don't get so bent out of shape," he said, dismissively waving it off. "It's just money. You've got plenty. You're fine." I stared at him. Just stared. The audacity of it. The nerve. They thought that because I didn't have kids, I owed them everything. They thought my life had no value, no meaning, unless I was writing checks for their kids' toys, their vacations, their emergencies. "You're unbelievable," I said, standing up. "Sit down," my cousin snapped. "Don't ruin the mood. The kids are having a good time." "Oh, don't worry," I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. "I'm not going to ruin the mood. I'm going to end the show." Dad chuckled. "What's that supposed to mean?" I met his eyes, cold and unyielding. "It means you're going to love what comes next." He laughed like I was bluffing. But I wasn't bluffing. The next day, everything I'd been holding in the years of resentment, the years of being used, came crashing down. My phone exploded. 53 missed calls, texts from my cousins, all demanding answers. My mom was calling, begging me to stop. Dad was calling, pleading with me, almost frantic. But I'd already hit send. I had sent an email to everyone in the family. The subject line was blunt: holiday contribution changes. And I spelled it out, clear as day, effective immediately. I'm stepping away from all financial support related to our extended family. This includes Christmas gifts, birthday gifts for minors or adults, school tuition contributions, mortgage assistance, emergency Venmo transfers, bailouts for unexpected vet bills, car repairs, or Disney Plus subscriptions. If you've already spent money using my cards, expect a chargeback. If you've saved my information or shared it without my consent, expect legal contact. You voted. I'm voting back. Merry Christmas. The childless one. I hit send and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lift off my chest. But that moment of peace wouldn't last long. It took them exactly 7 hours and 16 minutes to break. When I turned my phone back on, it was like a grenade had gone off. 53 missed calls, dozens of texts, voicemails from sobbing relatives, cousins threatening to sue me for emotional damage. My mom sent a message that began with, "I'm heartbroken," and ended with, "This is beyond disappointing." Dad called me 12 times. His last voicemail was just one sentence: "Please, for the love of God, don't do this." But it was done. I had already spoken to my bank. The fraud claim had been approved. Over $3. $600 in unauthorized spending was flagged. The Barbie dream houses, Nerf sniper rifles, and Christmas iPads, all of it was on hold. The presents were being returned. And, just to top it all off, I froze the emergency card. So when my cousin Sarah tried to use it for a hotel reservation that evening, her card was declined twice. The fallout was nuclear. The next day, I got a call from my Uncle Greg, one of the few in the family who never asked me for money, but also never said anything when the others did. His voice was low, almost ashamed. "Your mom's in tears. She says you ruined Christmas." I didn't flinch. "No," I said, cold as ice. "They ruined it when they made it a transaction." He was quiet for a moment. "You really charging them all back?" he asked. "I already did," I replied. He sighed. "Well, I can't say they didn't have it coming." And then He hung up. That was the last civil message I got for days. The real showdown came 3 days later. I came home from work to find them waiting on my porch, Mom, Dad, and my sister Rachel, standing there like they had something to say. I opened the door, trying to keep my cool. Say what you came to say. Mom started. We didn't mean for it to happen like that. What? You thought I'd just shut up and foot the bill again? I snapped. That I'd smile and say, sure, rob me blind. But let's do it with eggnog. Dad tried to step in, saying, son, let's not turn this into some kind of war. We're family. I laughed, loud and hard. You declared war the second you used my card without asking, and called it voting. That didn't feel like family. It felt like betrayal. Rachel rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are you still on about that? You're acting like we drained your entire savings. I snapped. I paid for your car last summer. I paid for your windshield. Because you couldn't drive with a cracked one. You said you'd pay me back. She snorted, dismissing me with, you make 6 figures. You'll survive. And that right there was the moment. That was the moment I finally snapped. That's why this ends now, I said, stepping closer. You all treat me like I'm just a wallet that occasionally shows up with a casserole. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We were just trying to give the kids a good Christmas. I didn't back down, so steal from me. That's your solution. Dad stepped forward, trying a different angle. Think about how this looks, he said darkly. What do you want people to say? That you betrayed your family over a few toys? I didn't even blink. No, I said, looking him dead in the eyes. I want people to say I finally grew a spine. And then, for the first time in my life, I said the words that shattered everything. I'm done with all of you. I've already blocked your numbers. And as of this weekend, I'm moving to another state. Alone. The silence was glorious. I opened the door. Now get off my porch. And with that, everything changed. The first 48 hours after that confrontation were pure, unadulterated peace, silence. It felt like the first deep breath I'd had in years. No phone calls, no passive-aggressive texts, no guilt bombs wrapped in fake concern. For the first time in forever, I wasn't carrying anyone's weight. No one was waiting for me to pay a bill, fix a mess, or save the day. It was just me, a cup of coffee, and a Spotify playlist that I could actually enjoy without worrying about the next crisis to handle. It was blissful. It was freedom. But then, I knew my family too well. They don't just let go when they lose their favorite donor. By day 3, they started crawling back in the only way they knew how, manipulation. The first message came in, subtly dripping with guilt. Maybe we should talk like adults. I didn't respond. Then came another, your mom's been sick with stress. You happy now? I didn't respond. And then, the kids are asking why Uncle Ghost doesn't call anymore. I didn't respond. I could feel their desperation even through the screen. But they weren't desperate to have me back as family. No, they were desperate to have their funding source back. I could see it clearly now. I wasn't family to them. I was a financial lifeline, a walking ATM. But then, just when I thought it was over, I got something unexpected. A message from Jason, my cousin. It simply said, I screwed up. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Not immediately. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. It was Jason. He wasn't wearing the usual hoodie and sarcasm that he always did. This time, he looked different. He was cleaned up, hair brushed, wearing a blazer and even a watch. He looked like he was playing the role of the functional adult, the responsible one. I enrolled in online courses, he said, almost sheepishly. Marketing. I've started working with a friend, trying to get it together, for real. I didn't respond. I just watched him. I was jealous of you, he said after a long pause, looking at the floor. That's why I lashed out. You had your life together, no chaos, no kids, no constant noise. And I hated that. I blinked, a little taken aback. Was he trying to apologize? It didn't feel like it. It felt more like an attempt to justify his actions. I tilted my head. You here for money? I asked bluntly. No. He shook his head quickly. I came to say, I'm not your shadow anymore. I'm not the screw-up you have to bail out. For a second, I actually believed him. Maybe he had changed. Maybe he had finally grown up. But then, 30 minutes later, I got an alert from my bank. Someone was trying to reset access to my online account. Guess who? Jason. That was it. I had my answer. He hadn't changed. He was still the same manipulative person. He came to my door not to apologize, but to see if I was still weak enough to fall for their tears. He was still using me. He just wanted to see if I was gullible enough to believe in his transformation. I locked down every password, froze my backup card, and alerted my bank again. No more access. No more chances. That was the last time anyone from my family was near my life. And then came freedom. I ended my lease, accepted a job in another state with a higher salary, a better apartment, and most importantly, no relatives within a 400-mile radius. It was a fresh start, a real one this time, and, as corny as it sounds, it felt like I could finally breathe. The best part wasn't the job. It wasn't even the fresh apartment or the new start. It was a message I got from Kelly, Jason's wife. I saw what he did, she said. I'm filing for divorce. And thank you. You were the only one who actually helped. I didn't expect that. She knew all along. She had been quiet, but she had seen it for what it was. And now, she was choosing to stand up for herself. She was leaving him, and she was thanking me for not putting up with their crap. And that hit me harder than I expected. Maybe my decision wasn't just for me. Maybe, by choosing myself, I had given someone else the courage to do the same. Before I left town, I decided to send one final message to the family group chat. I renamed the chat to, "This bank has permanently closed. Try loving instead." Then, I hit leave chat. I drove away, my car packed to the roof with boxes, music blasting through the windows. For the first time, I smiled. I was alone, but it wasn't punishment. It was freedom. And then, the silence. It's funny how quiet your world becomes when you cut out the people who never actually listen to you. After I moved states, changed my number, and blocked everyone from my family, the silence wasn't loneliness. It was peace. Real, raw, glorious peace. No more texts that asked me to cover this month's rent. No more guilt trips disguised as family check-ins. No more watching my phone light up with names that only appeared when their bills were due. They were gone, and not just gone, cut off. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't financially attached to anyone's survival. For the first time, I was surviving on my own terms. I found a new apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. My rules, my budget, my fridge filled only with things I liked. The first night I slept there, I left my phone on Do Not Disturb. Not because I expected a call, but because I knew there wouldn't be one. And let me tell you, there's a kind of healing that happens in silence. When you don't have to explain yourself, when you don't have to defend your boundaries, when you're not constantly questioning, am I being too harsh? No, you're not being harsh. You're being free. They tried. Of course, new numbers, blocked contact voicemails, even a burner Instagram account that messaged me saying, "Come home. We're family. Enough is enough." I laughed when I saw it. Enough is enough. That's what I said when they voted to steal from me and laughed in my face. That's what I said when my own father told me I should do more, because I didn't have kids. That's what I said when my brother, after all that, still tried to hack into my bank account. But now, it's different. Now, enough isn't a request. It's a boundary. And guess what? It's one they'll never cross again. I started therapy soon after all of this. And when I told my therapist everything, she didn't blink. She just nodded and said, "You were conditioned to believe that love must be earned through sacrifice." That sentence stuck with me, because it was true. I had been made to feel like I wasn't worth anything unless I gave something. unless I sacrificed something: money, time, peace. They made me believe that unless I bled for them, I wasn't part of the group. But that's not how family should act. That wasn't love. That was control, not care. And I escaped it. Now, when people ask me, "Do you regret cutting them off?" I smile and say, "No, not for a second. I regret not doing it sooner. I regret every birthday party I funded but wasn't invited to. Every time I canceled my plans to drive across town to pay someone's late electric bill. Every time I was the one who remembered every cousin's kid's birthday while they forgot mine, year after year. I regret letting them trick me into thinking I was the selfish one. But now, when I think of them, I don't even flinch. They made their choice when they decided I was useful, not loved. They voted. And now, so did I. Unanimous cut off. But here's the twist they never saw coming. I'm doing better than I ever did when I was their emotional and financial prisoner. I got promoted. I started traveling. I'm dating someone who doesn't ask me for anything except presence and honesty. I'm rediscovering hobbies I gave up years ago to chase approval. I adopted a dog, named her Balance. She's quiet, loyal, and doesn't expect anything from me but love. Honestly, that's more than I can say about most of my blood relatives. And just when I thought the story was over, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It just said, "He's out. We're getting divorced." I wanted you to know. It was Kelly, Jason's now ex-wife. She finally left him, and I knew right then. This whole journey hadn't just been about cutting them off. It was about refusing to carry their delusion anymore. Sometimes, when you walk away, you don't just save yourself. You shine a light for someone else to finally see the truth. I didn't lose a family. I freed myself from a scam. So, when people ask me, "What happened with your family?" I smile and say, "I used to be the one who paid for Christmas. Now, I'm the one who saved myself from it."